If you have chronic inflammation or pain in your body, this video can be very useful to you. Inflammation is a huge problem. And unfortunately, the way that people fix it is they just camouflage it with medications. And what that does is it just continues the problem longer and longer. So today, I'm going to get to the underlying root causes. When people are given the wrong diagnosis, it's like you can really make them worse. So it's vitally important to find the real underlying cause to your problem. Unfortunately, you don't see much of that in medicine. So today, as I go through the potential causes, try to see if one resonates with you more than others. I do know that when you present a person with the real problem, a lot of times they just intuitively, it just makes sense to them. It's like, yes, that's it. Finally, someone found the real cause. So that's what I'm going to try to do today and give you some solutions. So this video is really about trying to isolate the real problem. Okay, as far as the solution, I'm going to give you some things to focus on, but there's going to be additional information on how to solve this. And I have a lot more videos on that. But the first step is first trying to locate what's underneath the inflammation. Now, the top selling drug in the world is an anti-inflammatory, Humira. So apparently a lot of people have inflammation. And one little side note, which is very important and something you should know about, is that cancer goes into areas of old injury and inflammation. So by using this data, I'm going to show you to get to the root of it, you could potentially limit the amount of cancer that can spread into an area and hopefully eliminate cancer altogether, because there's a huge link between inflammation and cancer, inflammation and heart disease, inflammation and insulin resistance. And so it's a problem. But inflammation can come from many different sources. So when you start taking some natural remedy, let's say it's turmeric for inflammation, it doesn't work. Well, it could be some cause that's not fixed with turmeric. So let's go through the different causes of inflammation. Okay, first one is high iron. This is not as common, but especially in men, if you have too much iron because you have a certain disorder, a lot of men develop this problem after they're 50 years old, you can start to accumulate a lot of iron because iron is not easily eliminated through the body, and it can create cirrhosis in the liver. And as soon as you start consuming anything like red meat or iron supplements, you're going to just feel really bad. So that's a good little clue to know that you have excessive iron. But too much iron can create a lot of inflammation because our bodies just cannot get rid of iron. Now, another clue that you might have high iron is you donate blood and you feel better. Wow. Or if you're female, you menstruate and you feel better. That could be an indication that you have this problem. One of the remedies is phytic acid, which happens to be something that blocks minerals. It's like a chelating type chemical. And I always recommend to stay away from it because it's in grains. It's going to block zinc. But as a treatment for high iron, it is effective. I will put a link down below for more information on that if that resonates with you. Number two, this is the big one, especially the main reason why most people are taking this drug right here. You have an autoimmune disease, and I have quite a few videos on this topic. The solution is high levels of vitamin D3, 40,000 IUs consistently over a period of time, and you will feel better from that. Because if you could just stop the inflammation from an autoimmune, especially if it's like rheumatoid arthritis, you instantly start getting rid of all this extra damage that's occurring, and you let your body heal. Also, the other remedy for that is called TUDCA, together with vitamin D. TUDCA is a type of biosalt, a remedy that can activate the vitamin D receptor without giving you vitamin D. So it's a very interesting thing, but the combination of these two can greatly help this problem. There's more to it. I have videos on it. I will put those links down below. Number three, fiber. So as you know, the carnivore diet is becoming very popular because people are they can't handle fiber, okay? And I'm not even just talking about grain fiber. That's a given. If you're consuming grains with gluten, I mean, even if you don't have a sensitivity to fiber, all that omega-6 fatty acid is just going to tear up your gut, and you're going to have all sorts of inflammation. I'm talking about vegetables, and even like beans and things like that, legumes, but fiber in general, if someone has gut damage already, will flare up that inflammatory process and literally put them in a situation where they feel crippled and have a lot of skin issues and inflammation. So if you start consuming more fiber and you feel worse, well, you just might want to go carnivore for a while and see if you feel better. But this all relates to an imbalance with your microbes in your gut because they eat fiber. If you don't have the right microbes or enough of the microbes, and you're going to get these reactions from this fermentation in your gut, or if it's actually higher up in the gut, in the small intestine, it's just going to tear up your intestines. So that's number 3. Number 4, this is very unknown, but actually very, very common. And I kind of identified this in practice because people would come in with a lot of right shoulder pains and fibromyalgia, which is dominating on the right side, right through here, which is very common. And as you pull the string to try to find out what's underneath it, the bile ducts usually are jammed up with bile sludge, or the entire gallbladder is just sluggish for various reasons, in which case all that pressure is going to back up and cause pressure through the plumbing up to your liver, and which is going to refer pain all the way through here, sometimes back over through here to the rhomboid or this muscle right here. You'll get therapy, you'll get treatment, you get medication, but unless you really understand this and fix it, boy, that problem is not going away. So the remedy is TUDCA, okay? I already mentioned that over here. It's a simple remedy. It can thin the bile. Okay, now everything drains and you get instant relief. And yes, you need to change your diet. I have videos on that. But the point is, TUDCA is like a miracle treatment if you have this problem right here. I had this problem, and it creates bloating, severe inflammation. And I don't know of anything better than this right here. Number 5. This is kind of a general thing that's very common. You just get a lot of bloating, a lot of digestive bloating because you ate out a lot at restaurants, which is loaded with the omega-6 fatty acids, or you're just eating regular foods with a lot of soy oil, corn oil, fried in unsaturated fatty acids. Boy, that will just tear up your gut too. There's a great test. It's even a home test, and I'll put that link down below, that you can actually measure the ratios of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids, and you would be surprised how many people are very heavy on the omega-6. So not just avoiding like some of the salad dressings, but just don't go out to eat for a while and you will see a great improvement. But things like chicken is very high in omega-6 fatty acids. You might be better with the grass-fed, grass-finished beef because that's lower in omega-6 fatty acids. All right, number 6, you just had antibiotics, or you have a history of antibiotics, which creates an imbalance in your gut and even inflammation that can lead to scarring in your gut, which will lead to malabsorption. So if you're in that situation, you're the type that will take these vitamins and nutrition and nothing works because the lining on your colon is scarred. And that also occurs with a combination of eating a lot of grains, like myself, which just tears up the colon. And then you have this altered microbiome. You may benefit from fermented foods, okay, or more probiotics. However, if you get worse, then you have to avoid these prebiotics for a while. And if you have SIBO, which is these microbes in your small intestine, and you'll know it if you even take a probiotic, if you feel worse with a probiotic, okay, or with this fiber or fermented foods, boy, that's just going to bloat you more. And then you're going carnivore for a while. So there's a bit of complexity by trying to sort that out. But if that's your problem, I have a video for that too. Number 7, let's say you have low back pain. This is the first place where a low vitamin D shows up. So how do you know if this is connected? Do you do an x-ray for this? Do you do a blood test? Yes, you can do that. But a real simple way is just to take 20,000 IUs of vitamin D3 and wait for a few hours. If this is causing your problem, that back pain's going away. So then you know you need to take more vitamin D3. Get more sun. Number 8, food allergies. Now, of course, gluten is at the top of the list, but a lot of people are consuming like dairy they're allergic, nuts, egg. There's common ones and there's non-common ones. So, well, this is one of those things you can diagnose it by rotating your eating, start avoiding certain foods, see if you feel better, see if there's less bloating, see if there's less reaction to your skin, so you can kind of isolate and then get a test to see what food allergies you really have. One way to correct an allergy, both seasonal and environmental, is to do periodic prolonged fasting. That actually will fix your immune system. I have videos on that too. Okay, so infection. It's number 9. Let's say there's a deep infection in your body from an infected tooth that you have that you have no idea that's connected. If you had a lot of dental work and then all of a sudden notice problems after that, that could be why. There's a lot of connection between dental work as well as root canals, and then you get this systemic infection that can affect your joints as arthritis. You can also have a latent infection from like an Epstein-Barr virus. A latent infection is a virus that goes dormant and then it waits there till you're old and stressed out, and then it comes out and kicks your butt. So that usually shows up in kind of like lethargy, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and not necessarily a full-blown infection. But the key thing with this is stress, okay? If you notice a lot of problems that occur after some stress event, usually it's a big stress, then you're gonna have to do whatever you can to get rid of that stress, because all the oregano oil that I recommend for this infection will not help you, because the stress activates cortisol. Cortisol puts your immune system into a state of paralysis. You have no immune system when you're under stress. It allows autoimmune diseases to occur as well. But in general, I recommend a natural antibiotic, which also has antiviral properties. Like oregano oil is great for fungus, yeast, candida, virus, and bacteria. But there's other things you can take too, like garlic, thyme, sage. There's quite a few. Now, what about COVID, like the long haulers, this COVID infection you have, and now you have this chronic inflammatory condition? Well, that applies to this too, but there's some extra things I'm going to highly recommend for this as well. And I did a whole video on it. I will put that down below. One really important nutrient to take if you've noticed you have this problem after COVID is vitamin B1, and you need large amounts over a period of time. I go into it in detail in another video, which I'll put down below. Now, if your adrenals, this is number 10, if your adrenals are fatigued because you've been through a lot of stress in your life, you may have something called cortisol resistance. So cortisol it reacts to stress and it adapts the body to stress. But if you have too much cortisol over a period of time, and then your cortisol is kind of inactivating. So a perfect example of that would be in Cushing syndrome, where you have high levels of cortisol, yet you have all the symptoms of low cortisol. You have all this inflammation, you have allergies, you have skin problems. So if you have a history of adrenal problems with inflammation, adaptogens are really good, ashwagandha, and of course, vitamin D3 would be very important. Gout is another inflammatory condition. That is a high level of uric acid, but really what's happening, it's your body making a lot of uric acid, and for some reason your kidneys are not able to get rid of this lactic acid, so it's kind of accumulating. The best remedy for that would be to increase your pH, make it more alkaline, okay? And that seems to put you in a state where you have less gout attacks or less intensity. And the remedy for that would be baking soda, alternating with apple cider vinegar. okay? Because if you take too much baking soda over a period of time, now it flips to the other side. So you want to increase the pH and then decrease it back and forth. I will put that video down below. I already mentioned about allergies, but this is primarily environmental allergies. It's the same thing. You want to do periodic prolonged fasting. And then insulin resistance is behind a lot of inflammation, which then can cause belly fat, which can lead to more inflammation. It could lead to liver fat, which could lead to more inflammation. So if you're new to my channel, you need to get on the right eating plan. Anyway, I covered a lot of information. Now what I want you to do is just comment down below. I'm very curious, which one of these indicates more to you than all the others? And a common thread through a lot of this is vitamin D. So if you haven't seen this video on vitamin D, check it out. I put it up right here.